I've taken the time to study the all-22 coaches film from the Buffalo Bills Week 1 win over the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm sharing my top takeaways with you today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of Go Bills and Buffalo's Run, also the co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Well, folks, welcome in. Time for, probably my favorite episode that we do, the All-22 review. I spent all day studying this Bills-Cardinals tape, and I got things to say here on the podcast, sharing with you my top takeaways. Now, before we get there, there's been some big news with the Buffalo Bills, and that is the injury update for quarterback Josh Allen and cornerback Taron Johnson. Sean McDermott shared on Monday afternoon that Josh Allen has been cleared to practice, and he's been cleared to play Thursday night against the Miami Dolphins. And the Bills held a walkthrough type practice on Monday. Josh Allen was a full participant. Now, there's probably something wrong with his left hand, but it's not enough for Josh Allen to not practice and not play on Thursday. Not so good of an update for Taron Johnson, who has a forearm injury, and he's already been ruled out for Thursday night against the Miami Dolphins. So a big loss for the Bills. And when you couple Taron Johnson with Matt Milano as two players that are not available for this defense, boy, oh boy, is that tough. I mean, you go into the year and you probably said, hey, if you could pick any two players on the defense to not get hurt this year, you might pick those two guys. And I mean, Taron played less than 10 snaps, I'm pretty sure. We don't know the extent of the injury. Sean McDermott wasn't interested in discussing the time frame. He said he wasn't going to get any further into it other than ruled out for Thursday, forearm injury. That's what we know. So that's the injury update. Also, Dwan Smoot has been ruled out for Thursday as well. So with that out of the way, let's get into my takeaways from studying the All-22 film. We'll do offensive takeaways, we'll do offensive snap counts, defensive takeaways, defensive snap counts, studs and duds, the things that we do here on the All-22 review. I want to start with one of the big talking points coming out of the game, and that talking point being, why wasn't Dalton Kincaid more involved in the passing offense? 2 targets, 1 reception. A lot of belief, including for myself, that Dalton Kincaid was going to be the catalyst for this passing offense, get 120 at least targets this year. Well, it feels like maybe the Arizona Cardinals thought that would be the case as well. They paid him a ton of attention. They were rolling the safeties that way. They were squeezing down on routes that Dalton Kincaid ran in terms of some of the zone looks. The Arizona Cardinals weren't interested in Dalton Kincaid being the reason why the Bills' passing offense worked. And that's the beauty of the everybody eats idea, is if you want to take away a certain player, the Bills have a deep inventory of guys that they're willing to throw the football to. Legendary head coach Bill Belichick always said, you got to take away the thing that an offense does best and force them to win in other ways. And the Arizona Cardinals tried that, and fortunately for the Bills, is they're not built to run through any one weapon in the passing game. They're built to run through Josh Allen. And so Dalton Kincaid, it's not like he forgot how to play football or he's not very good. The Arizona Cardinals made a choice to say, you're not going to be the reason Josh Allen lights us up. And the Bills said, okay, cool. We'll just throw it to other guys. We'll complete 18 passes to 9 receivers. And that's exactly what happened. Which gets me into discussing Josh Allen in his day. Obviously, a great overall day, 4 touchdowns, really dynamic Josh Allen moments. I think my favorite thing from studying Josh in this game was the decision-making. I love how he managed the pocket, notwithstanding, of course, the strip fumble, right? That was not a good play. I will have no good remarks about that play. But everything else was really, really strong. I thought he did a good job of understanding where the pressure was going to be, manipulating the pocket, moving around, extending plays when necessary, but also not extending plays when unnecessary. Thought he had a really good feel for what the offense wanted to achieve. Getting a lot of different players involved. 5 different guys with multiple receptions. Like I said already, 18 completions to 9 different players. The only guys that weren't targeted in this game in terms of offensive skill players, the third string tight end, Quentin Morris, and the fullback, Reggie Gilliam. Josh Allen managed the blitz well. 7 of 9, 2 touchdown passes against the blitz. Just felt like he knew where to go with the ball. And he very much played a facilitator role. Now, he did dynamic things. Don't get it twisted. But it wasn't like this was a game that featured a lot of deep throws. Josh Allen enjoyed 7.2 yards after catch per reception. That's big time, right? That's not a number that we're used to seeing for Josh Allen. But it speaks to Josh Allen's ability to understand what the defense was giving him, take it, get the ball in the hands of playmakers, sprinkle in the special stuff when necessary. I also kind of enjoyed the 2 deep shots that they took. They had 2 throws that were beyond 20 yards from the line of scrimmage. One of them, of course, being the Keon Coleman completion, which was just textbook quarterback play. Cardinals are giving you middle of the field closed. That means you throw outside. You know that you get one-on-one with Keon Coleman. It got this guy on the team to win 50-50 balls down the field. Give him a chance to go make a play. There wasn't a ton of separation there. It was just, hey, we know that it's one-on-one. I'm going to take a shot here. Gave him a chance to make a play, and Keon made the play. The other one was a deep post to Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Josh was just a tick off on the throw, but the protection was good. The Bills kind of run a deep mesh concept and then bring the post over top of it. The safety they're playing two safeties deep. When they ran the deep mesh, the other safety closed down on the route, and it just left a ton of space for Josh Allen to throw the ball to MVS. Now, unfortunately, Josh was just a tick off with the throw, but I like how Joe Brady got to some of the deep stuff in the game. Really strong performance from Josh Allen. Really good decision-making. Love the way he played that game. I love the way the offensive line played. Thought collectively they were outstanding, especially the tackles. Dawkins and Brown were phenomenal in this football game, especially in pass protection. They weren't giving up anything. And Dion Dawkins played such a unique game. Like, his splits were crazy. The way that he was lining up, usually tackles like to line up kind of off the guard, and they're the deepest set offensive linemen. There were times when, or I would say not times, most of the time, Dion Dawkins was lining up closer to the ball than the guard next to him. That just speaks to the confidence that Dion Dawkins has in his ability to win with athleticism and win with technique. The reason that those tackles want that depth is so that they can have more space to kind of frame their sets and frame the rusher. Dion Dawkins says, no, I want to take the air completely out of it, get my hands on you. Dude's unbelievable. I mean, Dion Dawkins is getting better and better. He was an animal in this game. Big pancake block on the Khalil Shakir touchdown. Also a great block from Mack Hollins on that play. But Dawkins and Brown were phenomenal. If you were wondering about this investment that the Bills have made in these 2 tackles, you want to feel good about it, watch these guys play. Spencer Brown was mowing dudes over in the run game. Just playing with great technique. I'm so impressed with his ability to develop and the coordination that he has and how strong of a job he does at staying grounded and using the ground for leverage and really having a firm base that even if he plays a little tall, because he's so tall, right? it's going to be hard for him to just out-leverage guys with pad level, but the way that he stays rooted into the ground and uses his hands for leverage allows him to generate torque and move bodies. And boy, he was pushing Cardinals defenders all over the place. If you're part of the Locked On Bills subtext community, you were sent a file of, I think, 30 plays, over 30-something minutes of analysis of me breaking down these plays. And there's a couple in there of Spencer Brown just literally mowing dudes over. Heck of a game. And I thought David Edwards was really strong in his first game as the Bills starting left guard. I thought those three guys were really strong up front. David Edwards, particularly in the run game, just winning with body positioning angles, but also showing a physical element to how he executes. And I thought Connor McGovern was strong at center. You know, there's a big talking point during training camp about how the center snaps were going to be. And we saw some inconsistency with some of the placement of those shotgun snaps. Complete non-issue. Connor McGovern looking strong at center. Then the other piece of this offensive line note that I want to get to is you've seen the Bills use an extra offensive lineman frequently during games to be the jumbo tight end. Last year, that was David Edwards. You've seen Tommy Doyle do it. You've seen Bobby Hart do it. It's Alec Anderson now. I think he played 10 or 11 snaps as the jumbo tight end, which speaks to me why Will Clapp was elevated from the practice squad, because they want to make sure that they can preserve that element of the offense. They want that jumbo tight end, that offensive lineman kind of helping out situationally. So I love the offensive line. I explained Dalton Kincaid. I loved how Josh Allen played. One more note, and then on the other side of it, we'll talk about snap counts and start getting into the defense. One other note here on the Bills offense, something that really frustrated me that I think they need to correct is, especially later in the game, Joe Brady was a little bit too much in love with running the ball on first down. And the Cardinals knew it. And they started to really shoot some gaps. And that's where you saw the runs get a little bit muddy down the stretch. Cardinals just kind of knew their Bills were going to run the ball on first down, and they were shooting gaps and making plays and couldn't cut off some of those players that were shooting gaps, and they made some tackles behind the line of scrimmage or near the line of scrimmage. So I think Joe Brady's going to have to really focus in on that first down play calling and working in the pass, working in some play action, and not just saying it's 1st and 10, we're going to run the ball. I'm fine with running the ball. I want to run the ball, but it's you got to have some tendency breakers here on first down. I thought that caught up with them later in the game, in particular in the second half. So those are my big takeaways offensively. We'll talk snap counts and get into the defense here on the other side of it, folks. Be sure to stick with me. No man wants to lose his hair, but for men, it's actually very common. And now with Hims, the solution is simple. Try Hims Hair Loss Solutions, and you'll be joining hundreds of thousands of subscribers who get their flow back. Hims provides access to a range of hair loss treatments that work, all from the comfort of your couch. Hims makes treating hair loss simple with doctor-trusted treatment options and clinically proven ingredients that can regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. They offer personalized chewable, oral, spray, and serum treatments options so you can find what works best for you. The process is simple and 100% online. You just answer a few questions and a medical provider will determine if treatment is right for you. And if prescribed, your treatment is sent directly to your door. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/LockedOnNFL. That's HIMS.com/LockedOnNFL for your personalized hair loss treatment option. HIMS.com/LockedOnNFL. Results vary based on studies of topical and oral. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. All right, folks, let's talk about the snap counts here on offense. There's always interesting things to glean from who plays, right? So the Bills, 61 offensive snaps. Josh Allen, all 61 of them. At running back, James Cook, 37 snaps out of the 61. Ty Johnson, 14. Ray Davis, 6. Reggie Gilliam, 4. And we know that Ty Johnson had a knee injury, didn't finish the game. So I'm still very interested in kind of seeing out how this rotation is going to work behind James Cook. And James Cook had a good game. I thought he did a good job of kind of running to daylight and using his agility to make some plays. You didn't see the physical elements, right? He's didn't produce after contact. That is still kind of the same things about James Cook, but you can't really argue with the production. He got a lot of opportunity. He made plays. But when the Bills are looking for some like pad level and some real authoritative running, are they going to lean into Ray Davis or are they going to lean into Ty Johnson? I think we still have stuff to learn there. At receiver, again, 61 snaps. Keon Coleman, the most snaps, 45. Mack Hollins, 36. Khalil Shakir, 33. Curtis Samuel, 17. MVS, 12. I think the Bills wanted to lean into bigger people in this game. Obviously, we knew that the Cardinals' run defense was suspect. I think that's why you saw Coleman and Hollins really kind of get the most of the snaps. And that means less of Shakir, right? Because the Bills are going to run a lot of 12. I think they were about half and half, 11 personnel, 12 personnel. Curtis Samuel, kind of wonder if maybe the Bills are being cautious with him right now. Only 17 snaps, given the turf toe that we know he was kind of dealing with late in camp. And then MVS, 12 snaps. And honestly, that's 12 more snaps than I thought he'd play. I thought he'd be an inactive player. He winds up playing and really had two great chances to make a play. One he did, and the other, Josh Allen, missed him. So all five of the receivers wind up getting on the field and kind of an interesting distribution of snaps. At tight end, Dalton Kincaid, 51 of 61 snaps. Dawson Knox, 35. Quentin Morris, 6. And then Alec Anderson, 9 snaps as the jumbo tight end. And then the Bills enjoyed all 5 of their starting offensive linemen playing all 61 snaps. Let's get into the defense. And what I want to kind of comment on is what happened that allowed the defense to really settle in and play a lot better in the second half. I mean, obviously, Bills really struggled to get stops early on. In the first half, the Cardinals possessed the ball for over 20 minutes. The Bills had the ball for less than 10. It wasn't a great start defensively. I would say that, the Cardinals were gifted a touchdown by the refs when they called that ridiculous penalty on Jamarcus Ingram, right? Maybe that's a field goal drive. It's a different story. But they still struggled a bit. And I thought, well, really, more than anything that Bobby Babich did in terms of making adjustments, it's what I talked about yesterday on the podcast. Like, the game script changed. Like, the Bills started playing better complementary football. And that put Kyler Murray in a position where he couldn't just run the offense. He had to make decisions in high leverage moments. And that helped the Bills perform or have better results on defense. But two things were very different in the second half. First of all, they did blitz. And that flies in the face of one of my big talking points going into the game, because Kyler Murray historically has been unbelievable against the blitz. But the Bills leaned into it more in the second half. In fact, the Bills blitzed Kyler Murray 40% of the dropbacks, which is a very high percentage. And the results were very favorable for the Bills. I think that put Kyler in a situation where he had to make quicker decisions. And so they tried to kind of like just contain rush and play coverage to start the game. And that really wasn't working because you guys didn't want to get out of the rush lanes. They weren't really selling out to make sacks. The coverage you can only hold on for so long, and Kyler was able to just kind of find space and find completions. Well, you started to kind of heat him up a little bit and force him to get the ball out quicker than he wants to and be less of a visual player, and that worked for the Bills. In addition to Cam Lewis. I mean, Cam Lewis was phenomenal in the second half, and that's encouraging because we don't know how long Taron Johnson's going to be out. We know he's going to miss Miami game. But if Cam Lewis can play like he did in the second half against Arizona, I'm not going to say that he's Taron Johnson, but boy, he was very, very impactful in that second half. Made a ton of plays. And so it's a situation where the Bills are just going to have to rely on Cam Lewis indefinitely. And what he did in the second half gives me some encouragement. But the reality is his in-game growth from the first half to the second half was a big part of the reason the Bills had more success as the game moved along. And obviously, the Bills wanted to play this game a certain way with, of course, relying on Taron Johnson and Cam Lewis as the dime safety, and that had to change. And it took a little bit of time for the Bills to kind of feel that out and play defense to their standard which eventually happened. Now, one thing that I want to comment here in terms of the Bills' run defense, which was very successful. I thought they did a good job, in particular against the running backs, James Conner, Trey Benson, and their edge players were really strong in terms of setting firm edges and not allowing those outside runs to really work. But there's been a lot of commentary about, where was Ed Oliver in this game? Well, I think Ed Oliver certainly didn't have his most impactful game, but it wasn't necessarily the style of offense that lends itself to a lot of production from a defensive tackle when they're trying to attack the edges. Again, I think Ed Oliver could play better than he did, but you have to understand, like, in the NFL, based on certain styles of play, it's going to open up more opportunity for other position groups, and that's why you saw the edge players have a lot more impact than the interior players. That's where Arizona really wanted to attack. I wanted to comment on the performance of Dorian Williams. Obviously, an important player for this Bills defense right now. And I'll say this, probably the best game I've seen Dorian Williams play in terms of processing, getting to his spots, playing fast, and then still being physical and being a good tackler and those types of things. But I didn't watch this game and think to myself, boy, they're in trouble because Dorian Williams is out there. And candidly, I have in the past. Whenever I watched him as a rookie last year, I was like, I don't think this guy can be on the field because he's just lacks too much discipline with his assignments. I think you saw a lot of maturity, right? Game slowing down. I think that's really what it comes down to. The game is slowing down. He's getting more familiar with the defense and what he's asked to do, and he's fulfilling his assignments better. Always around the ball. Same thing with Terrell Bernard in terms of just being always around the ball. Not Terrell Bernard's best game. Had some costly missed tackles, but still finding ways to play with urgencies and play through some contact and get to certain spots. And you could tell that early in the game, Terrell was a little frustrated, I think, with how things were going on around him, and he kind of just had to settle into the flow of the game as well. In terms of the safeties, Damar Hamlin, Taylor Rapp, I know there's a lot of interest in like how they performed. I don't think that either one of them was particularly bad. I know that Taylor Rapp was part of the Taron Johnson injury, right? Friendly fire. I'm not sure what Taylor Rapp was supposed to do differently. He's closing in on a completion across the middle. He's trying to help make a tackle. It's unfortunate that Taron's arm was where it was. I don't think that one was like super malicious, but of course the history with Taylor Rapp's going to not give him the benefit of the doubt. You wouldn't like to see it, but I'm not sure what he was supposed to do differently on that play. Damar Hamlin made a huge tackle. Arizona had a perfectly called screen. The Bills blitzed Cam Lewis, and they had a screen right to where Cam Lewis was. Damar Hamlin was probably the only guy on the defense that knew it was a screen, and really good job clicking and closing and making a tackle. So I don't know that the safeties were overly negative or overly positive. I think they were fine. Now, the corners were terrific in this game. Rousseau Douglas, Christian Benford, they didn't even test those guys. I think they targeted both those corners a combined 3 times. They gave up 2 completions for 4 yards. Douglas and Benford are dudes. That's a good corner tandem. They met the moment in a big way. And then the last thing I'll say here on the defense is these edge rushers, Rousseau and Von Miller. Von Miller played a good football game. Wasn't just because he was able to collapse the pocket and get the sack on the bull rush late in the game, which was a huge play. He had other pressures. I thought his pass rush was very consistent. He ate up Calvin Beachum. But then also some really strong run defense reps too. He played disciplined. It was probably one of my more favorite games I've watched of Von Miller as a Buffalo Bill. So the dude has more than a pulse. I mean, I think he's ready to help this defense. Very satisfied with Von. And, of course, Greg Rousseau is dominant. All 6 of his tackles resulted in a failed play for the offense based on, you think about like a percentage of the line to gain and what would result in offensive failure. All 6 tackles fell into that criteria. 3 sacks. Strip sack. Using his length. And funny thing about Greg Rousseau is he was beating up on Paris Johnson. And Paris Johnson's got like 36-inch arms. Plenty of length. Plenty of power. Rousseau was able to out-technique him and collapse the pocket and make a bunch of plays. Really strong day for Greg Rousseau. And one of the talking points that has kind of come out of this with Spencer Brown signing his contract extension, people are saying, well, what's up with Greg Rousseau? Let's get him signed. The same reasons that you want it done are the reasons why it's not. Rousseau knows what's at stake. He knows that if he puts up a bunch of numbers, that dollar amount's going to go up and up and up. So perfectly reasonable from our perspective to want it done, perfectly reasonable for Greg Rousseau to say, yeah, I'm going to maximize my opportunity to earn and create generational wealth for my family. So a lot of good for this defense as things settled in, which I think was mostly game script related, and then just kind of sorting out the transition that they had to undergo with Taron coming out and Cam Lewis coming in, and then just kind of getting into the flow of the game. Hard to know exactly what to expect from the Cardinals, as we talked about. New coaching staff that was installed last year, starting quarterback that didn't come in until the last 8 games of the season. They bring in a Marvin Harrison Jr. There's a lot of differences on this offense. And so I thought as the feeling out process played out, obviously you saw the Bills defense kind of figure things out. Pretty encouraging. All right, on the other side of it, we're talking defensive snap counts. I want to talk about the kick return for a touchdown. Studs and duds, folks, be sure to stick with me. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we got a little something different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. All right, folks, welcome back. Let's do the defensive snap counts. The Bills also played 61 snaps of defense. Greg Rousseau, 48 snaps. A.J. Epinesa, 38. Von Miller, 29. Casey Toohill, 11. Cameron Klein, who was elevated from the practice squad, didn't play any defensive snaps, but he played every special team snap. So you could tell that was probably what the Bills had in mind for Javon Solomon, and they needed someone to take that role. But the real takeaway here is just a lot of snaps for Greg Rousseau. And even Von Miller, 29 snaps. So I think you kind of have a very clear top 3. Not that that was unexpected. I'm curious what this would mean if DeJuan Smoot was available, but that's a pretty healthy amount of snaps for Greg Rousseau in particular. Defensive tackle, Ed Oliver, 50 of 61 snaps. Daquan Jones, 45. Austin Johnson, 13. Dwayne Carter, 7. So, we've seen this Bills team be very rotation heavy with the defensive tackle position. For this game, at least, not so much. You saw a lot of Ed Oliver, a lot of Daquan Jones, and very little Austin Johnson and Dwayne Carter. At linebacker, Terrell Bernard, all 61 snaps. Dorian Williams, 52. So the Bills played some dime defensive sets. They played, I guess you can do the math. They did 9 snaps of dime defense. So 9 out of 61 snaps with 1 linebacker and 3 safeties. At corner, Christian Benford, Rasul Douglas, all 61. Taron Johnson only played 7 snaps. Cam Lewis, 55. Jamarcus Ingram, 11. Then your safety tandem of Taylor Rapp and Damar Hamlin played all 61 snaps. Real quick on special team snaps, I like to identify the players that are 4-phase special teamers. 4 phases means kick return, punt return, kickoff, punt. Guys that the Bills want to play every single phase of special teams. These are players that it says something about them in terms of how the Bills view them if they get a chance to play all the special teams units. Those players, Quentin Morris, Balin Spector, Jamarcus Ingram, Nicholas Moreau, Reggie Gilliam, and Cameron Klein. Those are your core 4 special teamers. On the kick return for a touchdown, the bottom line here is they went right up the middle and the Bills' coverage unit was creased. You had one side completely wash out like a bunch of defenders. Then you had a clear shot to make the tackle by Nicholas Moreau. Kyer Elam also missed the tackle. Mike Edwards just completely overran the ball, and the guy was off to the races. Great effort by Tyler Bass to try to make the tackle. Probably too much of an effort, but they just got creased right up the middle. Guys got washed out, and you had 3 chances to make a tackle, and guys didn't make the tackle. But guys were in position to make the tackle, and they just didn't do it. Studs and duds. And I always reserve the right to just put whatever players I want down for studs and duds, guys that really spoke to me in a positive way or a negative way to some level of volume throughout a course of a football game. So my studs and duds for week 1, I've only got one dud. Osiris Torrence. I mean, multiple penalties. And then when the Bills kind of gave up some pressure through Arizona's blitzes, it came through Torrence. And it wasn't that he was getting beat one-on-one. It just felt like him more than any other player struggled to adjust to the pressure look and kind of get to his spots. He was kind of too late to react and respond to different pressure looks. So multiple penalties, costly penalties. And then I thought he was the worst one in terms of dealing with the pressure looks. I thought he struggled. Looking for a much better play from Osiris Torrence moving forward. I got a long list of studs. Josh Allen, Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, David Edwards, Spencer Brown, James Cook, Mack Hollins, Dion Dawkins, Greg Rousseau, Von Miller, Cam Lewis, Rasul Douglas, Christian Benford, Brandon Codrington. Long list of studs. The Bills played a lot better than you maybe thought they did. That game was oddly in favor of Arizona early, and you remember why. We've been through it. You know exactly why the game was weirdly close. But if some of those kind of fluky things don't happen, the Bills probably win this game by 14, 17 points, maybe 20 points. Promising start for this football team. We'll see what happens Thursday night in Miami. Big divisional road game in week 2. We'll start getting ready for that real soon here. We'll do our crossover conversation with Locked On Dolphins, Kyle Krabs. We'll do our primer, final thoughts and predictions, all the stuff here between now and Thursday night. So don't miss anything. Make sure that you're subscribed. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills, and I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.